And the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Karoline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians. All of these lies that were never...
Karoline Leavitt just dropped straight fire in the White House press briefing room, and Kaitlan Collins walked right into it. What should have been a standard Q&A turned into an all-out verbal smackdown. But this time, Karoline didn't just clap back. She shut the whole thing down. Collins came in playing games, and Karoline came in playing...
You referenced the past intelligence reports and assessments on this, including that 2017 one that was signed off, as Ed noted, by every Republican on the Senate Intelligence Community, including the acting chair of the time, now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who said in a statement that they did not find any evidence of Russian collusion, but they did find, however, is very troubling, and they found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling. One, are you saying that he's wrong in that statement that he made then? And secondly, what would you say to people who believe that you're only releasing these documents now to improve your standing with the president after he said that your intelligence assessments?
Collins had that same smug, confrontational vibe, ready to stir up controversy and take shots at anyone even remotely aligned with Trump. Her target this time? Tulsi Gabbard. She tried to frame Tulsi's explosive claims about Barack Obama as nothing more than political theater. But Karoline wasn't having it. With zero hesitation and full control, she laid down facts, called out the media's hypocrisy, and exposed their double standards. She didn't dance around it. She said what everyone else was too afraid to say. Collins tried painting Tulsi as some pawn in a political game, hinting she was being used to attack a Democratic icon. But Karoline cut through that nonsense like a pro.
I want to correct something that you stated, which was citing the Senate Intelligence Committee's report as being one and the same. I think you said the intelligence community. The Senate Intelligence Committee has a very different function than the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
She made it crystal clear. This wasn't about party loyalty or legacy protection. It was about truth. And truth doesn't care who you voted for in 2008 or how beloved your name once was. If you've been waiting for the media to finally get called out, this was the moment. Every second of that exchange proved Karoline isn't there to play nice. She's there to set the record straight. And trust me, this one's worth watching more than once. Barack Obama's name is back in the spotlight, and Kaitlan Collins? She's scrambling. Her plan was simple. Discredit Tulsi, redirect the heat, and protect the narrative. But Tulsi saw it coming from a mile away and flipped the entire script. She didn't just offend herself, she exposed a machine. No filter, no fear. Even veteran pundits were left speechless. Then came the moment of no return. Collins, flustered and losing control, mixed up the Senate Intelligence Committee with the Director of National Intelligence. A rookie-level mistake. It was like confusing your dentist with your cardiologist. Embarrassing, especially on national TV. You could see the panic set in. Tulsi didn't let up. She stayed calm, sharp, and ruthless. And then came the tag team move. Tulsi passed the mic to Karoline like a baton in a relay race.
The evidence and the intelligence that has been declassified and released is irrefutable. I'm going to let Karoline speak to Secretary Rubio.
I'll speak to both questions. First, on Secretary Rubio, he put out a statement in 2020 following that Senate Intelligence Committee report, and he said what they found is troubling. We found irrefutable evidence of Russian meddling, which the Director of National Intelligence just confirmed for all of you, that Russia was trying to sow distrust and chaos. But what's the outrage in this that Secretary Rubio did not say at the time, the Democrats were saying at the time, is the fact that the intelligence community was concocting this narrative that the president colluded with the Russians, that the president's son was holding secret meetings with the Russians. All of these lies that were never true.
And Karoline? She picked up right where Tulsi left off and turned the pressure up to full blast. This wasn't just a misstep. It was a double takedown, live and brutal. For anyone tired of media spin and scripted sound bites, this was gold. Karoline lit up the room, and her target was once again Kaitlan Collins, who had just tried twisting Marco Rubio's words to push an old Trump-Russian narrative. But Karoline wasn't about to let that slide. Not for a second. Collins attempted to frame Rubio as a MAGA loyalist flip-flopping from his past, hinting he was confirming Russian infiltration. But that's not what he said at all. Collins sliced and diced his words, stripped them of context, and handed the press a tailor-made headline. But Karoline came in ready. She tore the lie apart, exposed the strategy behind it, and reminded the press they don't get to rewrite reality. Her takedown was clean, bold, and surgical. She didn't raise her voice. The truth did all the talking. Karoline isn't just defending her side anymore. She's setting the standard one takedown at a time. If this is the beginning, buckle up. She's rewriting the rules.
Also said at that time, we discovered deeply troubling actions taken by the FBI under Comey, particularly their acceptance and willingness to rely on the Steele dossier without verifying its methodology or sourcing. The Steele dossier that many outlets in this room ran as the gospel truth, and it was cooked up and paid for by the Clinton campaign.
Then one by one, she started calling out the networks, the same ones that treated the now debunked Steele dossier like divine scripture. No questions, no fact checks, just partisan hype dressed up as journalism. Back then, it wasn't just news. It was a media obsession. Every political panel, every late-night show, every anchor treated it like the silver bullet to take down Trump. But when the truth came out, silence. That smoking gun turned out to be a dud. Gossip piled on rumors, no proof, just fiction. And when it all collapsed, the loudest voices got real quiet. But Karoline didn't let it slide. She stood front and center, made the press look in the mirror, and forced accountability on a room that rarely gets called out. And she didn't flinch once.
As for your second question, Kaitlan, I think who is saying that she would release this to try to boost her standing with the president? Who has said that?
Well, the president has publicly undermined her when it came to Iran. He said she was wrong. He told me that she didn't know what she was talking about. That was on Air Force One on camera.
The only people who are suggesting that the Director of National Intelligence would release evidence to try to boost her standing with the president are the people in this room who constantly try to sow distrust and chaos amongst the president's cabinet. And it is not worth.
Karoline Leavitt didn't just speak, she exposed. In front of flashing cameras and stunned press corps, she laid it all out. How blind trust in a flimsy document tore the country apart for years. She didn't just shame the media, she lit them up. And the impact? Devastating. Because Karoline wasn't just talking to press. She was talking to us, the American people, the ones who were gaslit, ignored, and fed a steady diet of spin. She reminded everyone that credibility isn't owed. It's earned. And the media? They lost it. She made sure they felt the sting of every single word. Another scorcher from Karoline Leavitt. At this point, she's not just surviving. She's rewriting the entire job description of a press secretary. Brick by brick, mic drop by mic drop, she's building a legacy. This time, it started with Kaitlan Collins of CNN doing what she does best. Throwing out loaded questions disguised as journalism. Collins tried to paint Tulsi Gabbard's revelations about Obama as some calculated move to curry favor with Trump, a political stunt, not a principled stand. But Karoline didn't blink. She didn't dodge. She stared that spin straight in the face and tore it apart with surgical calm. Her precision? Ice cold. Karoline made it crystal clear. Tulsi never implied anything close to what was being alleged. Not by tone. Not by language, not even between the lines. The entire accusation? Pure fiction. Manufactured drama designed to divide Trump's base and discredit anyone brave enough to speak the truth, especially when that truth turns the spotlight on the Obama years.
I will just answer your question directly. I am with the President of the United States every day. He has the utmost confidence in Director Gabbard. He always has. He continues to. And that is true of his entire cabinet, who is all working as one team to deliver on the promises this president.
As Karoline laid out fact after fact, you could literally watch Kaitlan Collins unravel. Her media poise? Gone. The confident smirk? Cracking. You could see the wheels turning and then seizing as Karoline dismantled her entire setup. This wasn't a rebuttal. It was an execution. Collins was left with nothing to spin but her own panic. The cameras didn't miss a beat. The room fell silent. The kind of silence that only happens when something seismic is unfolding. Karoline didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her cold, calculated takedown left no doubt and gave Collins nowhere to hide.
Documents revealed that the Obama administration did not publish a December 2016 presidential daily briefing that demonstrated that Russia did not steal the election. Trump was receiving these briefings at the time because he was president-elect. Are you of the view that that information was kept out of the briefing because then President-elect Donald Trump would have seen it?
I don't have any documents that speak to exactly what the new guidance was that was given as the reason for pulling that document, which, by the way, still has never been published until we released it last week, Friday. One could assume that they didn't want President Trump to see a document that came from the intelligence community that would contradict the Russia hoax narrative that began through the Hillary Clinton campaign with the Steele dossier.
Lens and Mike in that room. Karoline buried Kaitlan Collins with the kind of sharp, surgical truth that cuts through all the noise. No theatrics, no screaming, just facts. Here's what went down. Kaitlan tried to trap Trump using a selectively edited 18-second clip of Tulsi Gabbard speaking on U.S. policy in Iran. It was chopped, twisted, and dangled like bait, drama dressed up as journalism. A reporter lobbed it at Trump mid-briefing, hoping to trigger a headline-worthy reaction. But Trump kept his cool. He called it for what it was, misleading. No outrage, just clarity. But the media wasn't satisfied. Within minutes, they twisted it into chaos. Headlines blared that Trump had turned on Tulsi. It was nonsense. Fiction conjured from a non-event. And that's when Karoline stepped in. Live, direct, unapologetic. She didn't just clarify, she obliterated. She exposed the press's stunt for what it was. A deliberate distortion designed to feed the anti-Trump machine. While Collins fumbled to reframe her narrative, Karoline calmly peeled back the layers. She showed exactly how the sausage is made, how talking points become fake stories, and fake stories become fact. Her tone? Ice. Her words? Blades. And then came the knockout. Karoline turned to the press and hit them where it hurt. The left, she said, loves to masquerade as the moral compass of the country. But behind the curtain, it's all performance. The outrage, the scandals, the headlines. It's not journalism. It's theater. They've spent years accusing Trump of dirty politics. But now the smoke is clearing and the real story is emerging. The left wasn't just playing dirty. They were coordinating. They had the briefings. They had the memos. They knew the Russian collusion narrative was built on nothing. And yet they ran with it anyway. Because it was never about truth. It was always about control.
Or the White House believe that the Supreme Court's immunity decision protects Obama from prosecution?
And he wants to see all those who perpetuated this fraud against our country, who betrayed our country and the Constitution, to be thoroughly investigated and held accountable. And it's been 10 years of this, and I would just add, based on everything the director has said and declassified, all of you in this room should go through it and take a look at this report and review the intelligence, because unfortunately that hasn't happened. And many of the people who perpetuated this hoax, Clapper, Andy McCabe, James Comey, and many others, have been hired by major networks in this room to go on television and continue to spew these lies, knowing that they
Barack Obama, Joe Biden, top intelligence brass. They weren't in the dark. They were in the loop. And instead of stopping a lie that divided the country, they stepped on the gas. They didn't just allow the Steele dossier to circulate. They amplified it like scripture. Then they handed it off to a media machine ready to turn fiction into front-page news. Not to protect democracy, but to smear Trump and seize a narrative. Now the mask is slipping. This isn't the party of truth or transparency or protecting institutions. It's a political machine, and it built an illusion. And Karoline Leavitt? She's tearing it down, one piece at a time. She called it what it is, deception at the highest level. The same people who lecture us about norms were behind closed doors scripting fantasies, betting the American public wouldn't catch on. But people are catching on. And now the question isn't if they lied. It's what happens next. Because a hoax this big doesn't just fade. There has to be accountability, whether through the courts, the ballot box, or something else. The American people deserve the truth, not in whispers, but loud enough to echo through history. whether Obama himself ever faces legal consequences. That's a matter for the justice system, maybe even the Supreme Court. But one thing is not up for debate. The damage was real. The deception was deliberate. Karoline didn't pull punches. She named names. Obama's inner circle. The most powerful players in Washington, who knowingly fueled one of the most dangerous political hoaxes in U.S. history. This wasn't clumsy politics. This was calculated sabotage. It happened behind closed doors, in tailored suits, under protection of institutional power. They weaponized government agencies. They hijacked public trust. They betrayed the very institutions they claimed to defend. And the media? They didn't just look the other way. They joined the mission.
Back to 2016 and the years after, the entire Trump 1 presidency was embroiled in this scandal that was perpetuated by the Democrat Party, who went on television and told the American people, Donald Trump is an asset of Russia. It was a lie. They always knew it. Hillary Clinton herself said that President Trump would be a puppet for Putin. Senator Tim Kaine at the time called President Trump Vladimir Putin's defense lawyer. Adam Schiff stated, and one of the worst things a lawmaker can do, he said, I can tell you that the case is more than that. I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. And not enough people in this room, not enough journalists in this country pushed Adam Schiff to say, what are you talking about? What evidence do you have?
Legacy outlets didn't report the narrative. They became the narrative. Every leak, every rumor, every anonymous whisper was treated like gospel, not because it was true, but because it served one purpose. Stop Trump. Forget journalistic integrity. Forget balance. Forget facts. Anchors became activists. Editors turned into political operatives. Newsrooms didn't chase truth. They chased headlines built for agenda, not accuracy. The Steele dossier? It was nothing more than opposition research, unverified and unstable. But they plastered it everywhere, broadcast, print, social. Looped like scripture, no vetting, no pushback. If it hurt Trump, it ran. If it helped him, it disappeared. Then, when the investigations collapsed and the narrative unraveled, what did they do? Nothing. No retractions. No apologies. Just a quiet pivot to the next fake scandal. Hoping Americans would forget the deception. But we haven't forgotten. And thanks to Karoline Leavitt, we won't. Her voice didn't just challenge the media. It reminded millions of Americans what real accountability looks like. This era of elite protection, of insiders rewriting truth with zero consequence. It has to end. Justice isn't a luxury for the powerful. It's a promise to the people. And if this country still stands for anything, it's time to make good on that promise. We see the consequences all around us. The division, the distrust, the erosion of faith in our institutions. That didn't disappear with the headlines. It lingers because what we witnessed wasn't journalism. It was propaganda. A coordinated assault on reality, driven by partisan operatives hiding behind press badges. Crushed Trump, silenced dissent, recode truth in real time. And Karoline? She pulled back the curtain. She exposed the alliance between the media and political insiders. She revealed the manufactured outrage, the scripted scandals, the systemic deceit. This wasn't sloppiness. It was intentional. A full-scale attack on reality itself. Now, the lies are out in the open, and the next step is non-negotiable accountability. No more unchecked power. No more media manipulation. No more selective truth. The American people deserve the full story, unfiltered, unedited, and undeniable. And if voices like Karoline's keep rising, bold, clear, and fearless, the balance is finally beginning to tip. That wraps up this breakdown. If you found this eye-opening, if you believe truth still matters, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.